No.
That clarity comes from clear investigation. Seeing into it. So that when fear rises, we can lean on this understanding. And understanding here is of a different kind. Our understanding has to be rooted in that which is essentially not subjected to the coming and going, not subjected to change. It is the continuum of existence, not existence as in terms of being embodied. It's that continuity of our awareness. If our awareness was not a continuum, then when we go into a deep sleep, when there is a cessation of the sense of identity, then it will be very difficult to wake up into that identity again. Think about it for a second or two. You cease to exist in a deep sleep. The individuality is not there in a deep sleep. How comes on waking up, you wake up into your story again? Why are you not waking up as someone else if it ceases to exist? Isn't that a legitimate question? Because you see, again, the thinking comes from the bodily perspective. Well, that's my body when went to sleep. It's my body went to sleep. So obviously that I will wake up who I was. But wait a minute, if we presuppose that that identity is withdrawn into the domain of the causal, into the domain of the deep sleep, into that, what I call poor man's nirvana. Why we wake up again with a set of this personality? Huh? That would not be possible if there was not a continuity of awareness. So in other words, even in deep sleep we are aware of who we are. And it is indeed what happens to everyone in whom awakening took hold and expanded to a deep enough level. When there is enough expansion, it interpenetrates and illumines every single relative state. Waking, dreaming, deep sleep are illumined by your own awareness. If prior to that there was this coming and going, if prior to that there was this coming and going, now I'm in a waking state, then I go to sleep and I'm dreaming, whatever happening to me. In deep sleep all this ceased. And I had no experiences, I'm clueless what it was, and very good rest though. We usually call it nothing happened. So that continuity is broken in a deep sleep. Broken because of that yet precedence of the relative states. But once we have enough transcendence, or once we are transcended enough, then the awareness doesn't break through relative states. In other words, you no longer do anything, you no longer go to sleep. It's in relation to the body functions only. It's only in relation to the body. And of course, in a casual dialogue, yes, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. You know what, I have a headache, or I'm really tired now, or I have a, backache, or I need to rest. Of course, we carry on the same language. But nothing happens to the I. The I is not involved in all that. It's only in relation to what happens to this physiology. And that separation, what we've talked about also last night, which is clearly experienced throughout being established in the witnessing state of consciousness, we no longer subjected to these breaks. It becomes one continuum. One continuum. Earlier on, there are phases. Earlier on, when awakening is intense and as an ongoing process, there is a phase when we feel we cannot sleep at all because we feel wide awake. Even the body lying down, but we're wide awake. And some years ago, I wrote that short piece entitled Brahman Never Sleeps, which aimed to help to recreate a sense of ease, which was aimed originally to those who would come up with this pertinent question of awakened there and then, and now really 10 years I cannot really, 10 years. Some people resort to the sleeping pills, essentially to numb the body. You need to understand this also. This is just the footnote. But in the intensity of that, there could be that as if you cannot sleep, simply because at that time it feels very new, until it, as it were, becomes normal again. The acuity of that experience is still very new, and it feels like as if I cannot relax, I cannot sleep. It may be accompanied also by that the system is wired. As if failing to shut down. And little touches here and there, but above all else, high psychological health. Above all else, introducing or reintroducing the psychological health. And that is, never was the time when you ever slept. None of you ever slept a wink. Consciousness never sleeps. Just to give you a little story to lighten up the mood, otherwise you look so serious, all of you. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi used to take Westerners mainly to India for first programs to learn, this is especially when the teacher training courses were introduced, and this is back in the 60s and the 70s. And sometimes his old buddies would gather, all these colorful folk that would dwell in Himalayas there, and he would take people to the Rishikesh, as some of you may know. And there are many pictures, really fun, amazing photographs. Among Maharishi's pals from those days, when he was with Gurudev, was this amazing looking yogi, Tatwalat Baba. Just Google his name, you really love to see the guy. Dark skin, tall, dreadlocks dangling down on the floor if he doesn't put it on a jata. Always walking just with the loincloth, no items on him. Lived in a cave with a cobra there as his roommate. So he would come down as well. You know, Maharishi was in a very small body. Maharishi was very short, right? And Tatwala Baba is tall, you know, kind of. And often Maharishi would invite him, and he would talk there, share something with the students of Maharishi. And once a student asked Tatwalat Baba if he sleeps, because the notion went through, the talk went through that yogis don't sleep. And Tatwalat Baba replied, if I go to sleep, the universe ceases to exist. And of course, it's a staggering reply, but if you contemplate on that, that's exactly what it means. As consciousness, you don't go to sleep. The body can sleep, body can rest, body can be log of wood. Does that affect consciousness? Not the least. And that is the psychological health, if you will. That's the health. That's the foundational understanding. Foundational understanding. This is what it means, consciousness-based education, not object-based education. Education should always be subject-based, not object-based. Because when our education is object-based, it scatters our brain and fragments us. Fragments our reality in no time. On top of what is already fragmented there for a given, it is fragmented further. So therefore, in all discourses, this work of holding space is to reorient you again, and continuously reorient you, reorient you, reorient you. You will be still pulled back to that old way of thinking until something happens and you realize, actually, I'm no longer pulled. I'm quite happily remaining as consciousness at all times. And this is a wondrous moment, because then living in the body is a play of consciousness. It's still, the drama continues, but not at the cost of the soap opera.